What's up, everybody? It's Nate, Startup Nation. Thanks for joining. We got a pretty unique set today. I wanted to introduce Rick Mosteller. He is the person that actually I put my life in his hands and his team's hands recently and got my personal pilot's license at Palomar Aviation. He has sold 3 businesses in the last few years, been extraordinarily successful with that, and now is open to the school about a little over a year ago. And you're going to hear his story today, and then we're going to talk about a few different subjects. I wrote them down so I didn't forget. Passion versus profession. We're going to talk about customer service, talking about plane and safety, and then generally the safety in planes, because there's a misconception with that. And then we're also going to talk about technology and the importance of utilizing technology when it comes to businesses, because I think a lot of people don't put as much support and emphasis on that. Rick's basically made his career doing that, and so he's going to talk about that. So prior to getting into technology as our first episode today, I want you to talk a little bit about yourself and just, so people get to know you a little bit more.
Well, thank you, Nathan. It's great to be here. Great to talk to you, man. Yeah, I majored in aerospace engineering many years ago as a volleyball player and enjoyed playing sports, enjoyed sailing, and then started flying when I was 17. So I enjoyed flying ever since I was really young. Got my license when I was 19, and then my wife and I, on our first date, went flying. So our very first date was up in an airplane.
Really?
She trusted me.
I was going to say that. I wouldn't trust you for that.
Yeah, we flew to Palm Springs, and we just had a great time.
That's awesome.
Had lunch, and we were married with 3 kids.
So that's an easy way to close a deal.
Yeah, we closed it. Yep. But I really enjoyed sailing and airplanes so much that I moved into aerospace engineering, which is basically fluid dynamics in the air, and then worked for Lockheed for a while, worked for Sikorsky, did some work with Northrop, and then started moving into businesses. And took some of that work that I learned working for large companies and applying it to technologies and airplane businesses that I enjoyed.
Gain that experience and implement it, right?
And then we implement it,
Cool. So I wanted everybody to listen to Rick today, specifically because of getting to know him. Learning to fly a plane is a lot more intimate than learning Spanish or something else, right? Specifically because you're putting your lives in their hands. Like, we'll talk about this but one of them specifically was about the fact that it's been a goal of mine for a number of years to fly a plane, but I preemptively not wanted to do it simply because I thought they were unsafe. So Rick taught me about the fact that can be a misconception, and again, we'll talk about that a lot, but Palomar Aviation is all about that, and he is hypersensitive about that too, which is very rewarding. So let's talk a little bit about technology to start for today's episode, because I know these planes specifically trump the majority of planes out there when it comes to the use of technology, and then even in your previous life per se, you utilized a ton of technology in software companies, correct?
Yep.
To become successful, and I can talk a little about my experience with that as well.
Sure. Well, airplanes have been around 100 years. They're still very similar to the way that they were designed literally 70, 80 years ago. There's wings, tails, engines up front that are gas powered. What's different is the avionics and the safety equipment and how we help people navigate through the clouds, get out of unusual attitudes. And then with these aircraft, they actually have a full airplane parachute system, which is called CAPS. So it's the Cirrus aircraft parachute system, which actually brings the airplane down and all the passengers to the ground if it is ever needed. Hopefully, just like an airbag, you hope to never see it, but it's really nice to know that you have it if ever.
So talk a little bit about your experience with your previous life, as much as you're comfortable with today, and why technology became a big part of your life. Because if it didn't, you might not have ever even been attracted to this side of airplanes, right? You would have flown a Cessna 172 or something like that. No offense to people who do that, but it's night and day, right? So,
well, I learned to fly in a Cessna 172, so well, many years ago. Yeah, I actually started work at Lockheed. I was at Lockheed Skunk Works, and we were using technology to take what was being done in drafting boards and moving it to computers. And that was called computer-aided design. So we used computers to put together drawings, to navigate all the information needed to build an airplane, all the bills of materials and piece parts and all the hundreds of thousands of parts that go into aircraft. And what they were noticing back when I started my career is a lot of folks were just moving from drawing boards to computers. They had a lot of experience in how to make airplanes, but they weren't ready to move into computer technology. So they hired a bunch of apprentices like myself. And I was teamed up with a few mentors who knew how to design airplanes but didn't know anything about computers. My first engineer that I worked with actually was great on a slide rule, and I didn't know how a slide rule worked. and I'm sure most of the people watching today don't use slide rules, but back in the day, that's what they were still using. So we took their engineering drawings and moved them into computer-aided design or CAD systems, and then that allowed us to build more and more technology advanced aircraft. And Lockheed Skunk Works was certainly, a big piece of that with both their, they had the stealth fighter and many other airplanes that they've built, SR-71 and the U-2 and others, and they still build them today out in Palmdale.
It's funny you bring that up because there's going to be complementary pieces to any business relationship. Like he knew how to use the slide rule, knew how to build airplanes, and you knew the other piece of it, right?
Yep.
I'm starting another business right now that I'm not going to talk too much about on camera, but my business partner is actually, I don't want to say against technology, but he's a little bit, he's not very advanced with technology, and he'll know when he listens to this a lot of that. And it's more of just a choice. He doesn't want to spend the time to learn it. I am the opposite. So one of my businesses, Green Guard Services, we're significantly more advanced than pretty much anybody in the industry. We're actually currently in the implementation of a full ERP system, which then implements all of our outside employees that do the cleaning and all that. We have all that implemented with an accounting system, with all the reporting, with the dashboard, and it's all one program. So you're not using 10 different programs. You're not doing, a lot of our competitors are just doing maybe QuickBooks if you're lucky, and they'll give you a paper receipt, things like that.
Yep.
And so because we have that, and we have customer portals and all these things, it's not just the fact that, hey, you're flying a plane, flying a plane, flying a plane, or cleaning a hood is cleaning a hood is cleaning a hood. It's like, no, that is the fundamental basics of what you should be doing. If you're in a plane, you're not flying it, then what are you playing for, right? Same thing, if it's easy to clean a hood, it's all the other stuff you get in addition to it that makes you different. Well, I would suggest that's the significant difference here.
Yeah.
Is that, and again, we talk a little bit off subject on a lot of these podcasts, as people know, but for me, I might not have had my license if I hadn't met you and understood the safety component specifically around technology with these planes. Because I just wasn't comfortable with putting my life in that situation, right? Now that I know more about planes, it's a little bit different, but clearly these are going to be noticeably safer than almost any other plane out there.
Well, you mentioned ERP. I'm a big fan of ERP, and all the businesses that I've worked on, we always focus on one version of the truth.
Yep.
You can't have 5 different departments all running on different programs, all using a different customer database.
Yep.
Or somebody says, I'll send you an Excel database. Of course, that's not a database, it's a spreadsheet.
Or just data.
It's just data,
or
yeah.
Information. Yeah.
Or I'll text you, or I'll email you. That's not a system. You need a system like a ERP or like a CRM that actually has all the data about your customers, the people that work for those customers, all the activities that are occurring with those people, how you map them to contracts, and pull it all together in one solution.
Our system here is as far as if the guy behind the camera right now, Shane, calls into my office and Shane has Shane's Pizzeria, it'll literally pop up Shane's Pizzeria on our ERP, recognizing the phone number, so then our employees can enter in the information.
Yep.
Then if he has a request about scheduling issue or about a request or repair, it creates a ticket, and then there's a ticketing system that then has deliverables around 48 hours if it's based on the specific ticket and all that. So that just has this really amazing workflow. And then like anything, I teach a lot of my leaders and my executive teams that you trust but verify. That's the way to do that without having to dig into it, right? Trust your employees to do their job, but verify. But verification can be much easier through technology.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. Also, all the activities that are performed against each of those customers and those contacts, all the people, can all go into a single system. So it allows you to monitor who's called, who has a trouble ticket pending, who's current on their bill, who's not, et cetera. All that information's all in one spot, which really helps.
I'm a little bit spoiled with these planes too, and I keep going back to them because there's a lot of translation there, right? But like the verification, I just don't know any better about the fact that when they have things like this secondary screens, they call it MFD and PFDs, you can tell where traffic is.
Yep.
Now, a lot of the planes, even the older ones, have kind of versions of that. But the safety piece of that's absolutely critical. Or the component of how close planes are to you, and all these different things that allow you to be able to single pilot, even though it's much more difficult to learn initially. You're going in a plane to be safe, and so who cares if it's going to be a couple more hours to learn the avionics piece of it, right? So.
Well, I really enjoyed watching you learn to fly, Nathan. I saw you go from the first few flights when it was all still new, and then you start talking on the radio, and then you became a solo pilot flying by yourself. And the first few times it just sounds like magic, you know, how's all this occurring? And then pretty soon you know how to use the PFD and the MFD and dial up avionics, look at traffic, and even communicating on the radio. You said trust and verify. Every radio communication is two-way.
That's exactly the same thing. Yeah.
The tower says hold short runway 24, you have to say back to them holding short runway 45 Alpha, yeah. And if you don't say that, they're going to keep saying it because they don't know that you actually have heard them. You have to verify. Yeah.
So it's really important to utilize that technology not only in flying but in any business practice, and accept that. I know it's for a lot of people that are can't teach an old dog new tricks. Understand that your business, there's very, very few businesses, if any, that won't benefit from some form of technology investment. It doesn't have to be as invested as a 6 or 7 figure ERP conversion to but there is going to be some capacity that's going to really benefit your business. And we won't go into this too much today, but I think that'll really convert your business potentially from one, making it a little more scalable, but two, allowing it to be more of a actual profession versus a passion, which I think we talked about off camera, where a lot of entrepreneurs want to call it a profession, but they can never get out of their own way when it comes to them just doing it themselves, right? And so that's my opinion. I think they need to find some way to invest some type of technology in their business.
Agree 100%.
Cool. Yep. So that's, we're going to have a couple episodes today. That's the one about technology. And I've talked about that a few times during the podcast. I think it's really important people to understand that I keep bringing people on here that are saying the same thing. Start listening, right? But Rick is probably at the pinnacle of utilizing technology in his career. And so you've heard people that are doing it at a very basic level all the way through people that worked at a very high level with Lockheed down up to these planes that are about as technologically advanced as you can get for general aviation. So stay tuned for episode 2. Thanks, Rick. Appreciate it.
Thanks, man.